3, 2. Oh,
Am I supposed to
the
start?
show is starting. And I looked at Kellie like she was supposed to start the show, but yet this is our 11th episode and I always start the show. Kellie, what the heck is wrong with me?
You know that it has been one of those days, and I know that I say it every time we do this because I can't help but live a difficult life. But today has just been like, boy, for me. I can't even like get the word out. It's just been one of those days.
I don't know what you just said, but yes, everything from scheduling to the fact that we do this all the time, and Kellie and I have such a good protocol with everything else. And then I'm looking at her like, hello, start the show, Kellie. And she's like, hey, dummy, you start the show. And I'm like, no, you start the show. But I will say, credit to us, as far as production stuff that we're doing beyond this, like we excelled at this is typical us. We excelled at something else, right? You know, coming up like in the future or whatnot. But then because we excelled in something else, we failed at this. You know, I just that
it can never be both. It always has to be one or the other.
No. Once we are the epitome of you take one step forward, you take two steps back type shit. You know what I mean? Yay, I succeeded. Only to fail. I love the episode Italian Piñata. We are here.
Italian Piñata, best thing ever.
The reference. Oh, we had Mark Consuelos in the episode. We had the Goodfellas reference. We had such deliciousness, and even
Working Girl reference. I mean, come on.
Oh, because I have a body for Cinnabon. Yes. And then also we have Marilyn Kessler, because we love Marilyn Kessler as a busybody. But if she's sticking it to Arthur, and Arthur says, "Oh, what are you here for? Is it about Julie?" The way she didn't say this, but her eyes said, "Yes, dummy." It's about
Why else would I be here? You get it together.
What else do you think I'm here to talk to you about? Yeah, you alcoholic. You functioning alcoholic. Very good. I've often said that this was one of my favorite episodes. You know, I look forward to it. You know, I thought Mark Consuelos did a great job. I mean, it was super funny, even in the way he had all of these moments where he says like Princess Diana when it's really Judy Garland. He says all of the wrong, Larry Kramer, he called it the normal something when it's the normal heart, like all of these things. And Billy's eyes are just rolling like, dude, can we hook up already? To me, it was great. And it had that infamous line that we start off with, which is a different kind of daddy, which to me, when I was watching this in 2015, 2016, I was like, now this show is fucking funny. Do you want to take it away? Oh, Kellie. We have a guest later. We have a guest.
Yes, we do.
Just when I was about to bask and relish in the episode Italian Piñata season 3 to episode 3, we have a guest. So there is a gal. Her name is Liz, got_Liz on Instagram, who had a tattoo of a scene from this episode. So we will talk to her after we do our recap, and it's going to be delightful. It's going to be enchanting, and I'm feeling good. I was going to tell you, it's interesting to see Hulu because I was watching another Hulu series. It's with Martin Short and Steve Martin and Selena Gomez. Yep.
I've been wanting to check that out.
Yeah, it's a true crime-ish, more comedy. Very good. And the only thing I could think is when I'm watching it, I love it because, you know, my and like us all of our humor varies from side to side, right? And it's nothing like Difficult People at all. But all I can make me think is one simple thing. I was like, oh, I'm going to tell Kellie this. It's just so crazy to think when Billy and Julie did Difficult People, Hulu was like not really a known thing as far as viewing. And now you have somebody, Martin Short, Steve Martin, and I think it was a good role for Selena Gomez too. So I've been watching it. It's super cutesy. It's not, don't go there for the edge, go there for the cutesy, and it's funny. Yeah, so I was going to tell you that I'm watching it, and I do love
Martin Short and Steve Martin, three amigos, love it. I'm all over it.
Yeah, really cool. Anyways, I wanted to tell you that because it's just so interesting. What we're talking about is a Hulu series, but our Hulu series, Difficult People, was like when no one even stopped cable at the time.
That's true. I know they were like, one of the first to even get me to get Hulu. I think I got Hulu to like watch that show and one of the other ones that right now I can't even think of the name of, but I love that show. It's only because I've been having that kind of day. I can't remember my own name, but nothing bad to the show. I don't even know what day it is. But.
Yeah, and now streaming costs only $1,500 a month.
Only. I just got a bill that it's going up $1, but whatever.
Great. Well, in that case, why don't you do us a solid? ViridianRow.com, Viridian Row. That is our sponsor for the show. So go check them out. Get a, look at you with the little t-shirt. And of course, if you want to support other production costs, it's patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr. So Kellie, let's get into the episode. Italian Piñata. Different kind of daddy. Let's go.
Love it. So it is coming out today, and they're walking down the street, looking, they're going to this, what is it, the Stagecoach Inn? No, that's here in Texas.
Stonewall.
Yes,
they will read you
for, here in Austin. Sorry,
they're gonna read you for filth. I will tell you, Kellie.
I know.
the girls are gonna get you.
They are. I'm sorry. It's a very historical place, and they are talking about the history of it as they're walking by, and just kind of like what it means for the community and all of these things. And Billy is telling his story, and then also giving his fun little take on the whole thing, and like the interchangeableness, like the new gays become like the new shiny
new model.
thing.
Yeah.
The new model.
Somebody had to say it. Kellie, somebody had to say it. Somebody had to say it. There was a show called Looking on HBO, and the guy was about to turn 40. The guy that he was dating was actually the character played by Scott Bakula. Scott Bakula's character was over 40. He was like, oh, no big deal. Whereas the other guy was like, no, I'm about to turn 40. You're basically dead as a gay guy. So I identified so much with the way Billy was like, shit, every year there's a new model. They're like iPhones. So every year during coming out day, it's like somebody wants to trade up. And it was like, oh yeah, there are certain stereotypes that don't make sense. And then there are some that really do hurt us.
Well, and I feel like Billy is always feeling kind of left out when it comes to any sort of romantic thing, right? He always feels but like overlooked. Okay. And now there's a whole day devoted to reminding him of just how overlooked he feels. And kind of this new take and where the day takes them is such a fun ride, because he gets to be on the other side of it finally.
Oh yeah.
Him. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it brings it around in albeit a kind of not a real way, because of course they're faking everything lying as they tend to do.
For people to like us, all we have to do is change everything about us.
Change everything about us, right?
But that's
good. I love all the little things that happen to get to those places, because everyone can identify with that, like not feeling comfortable in who you are. I mean, hence the whole day to actually stand to be who you are and tell whoever you need to tell, this is who I am, which is a really big deal. So to kind of get that message of they're a little bit, I wouldn't necessarily say making fun of that day, but telling their experiences about it. And then we hear the histories of it, but each of them have their own like coming out in a certain way that just kind of brings it around in a fun place.
Exactly. It's the asinine, like just craziness that Julie's character gives, but it is the reality. It's like, oh, if every human came out as far as like just defining who they are, what would that look like? But the way the show's done so masterfully, and I'm a critic, of course, if it wasn't as if they were just making fun of the coming out experience, and I think that's like not easy to pull off.
No,
like,
it isn't.
My bitter bitch attitude would be like, oh, don't dismiss this is a very challenging day. I mean, I remember in my journey, it would be like every October, for 26 years old, 27 years old, I'm like, is this ever gonna happen? You just start to be like, it's such a serious thing. So to make it comical, to make him the way Billy even says, like, oh, our forefathers, and our brothers and sisters fought for this, and now I can find a power bottom at any corner. Like, it's just the funniness that we need for something like this. I thought it was
like
great.
taking that and being able to poke fun, but in still a way that doesn't diminish the meaning of what it is. Because I mean, Julie changed her personality so much that she actually helped and tried to support Arthur in something. I mean, when did she ever do that?
Well, she learned from the other gals.
She took something from someone else.
Wait, what is it that we have to do? We have to, that's right, help our man. Like, for her to muster that up, it's like,
if we can't make him a plate, if I don't cook and I can't make him a plate, then I have to help him.
I have to find something.
Which was just hilarious.
I would say, Kellie, and as we jump into this recap here, I think this was my favorite episode so far, and probably so far. probably so far. It was perfect. Mark Consuelos, like it just everything really landed for me. The jokes about like when he is talking about oh well yeah, I was just wearing cargo shorts, I was just listening to the Eagles, and we really don't like Kevin Smith. Like that was funny to me because so many other times you're on the other side of that, you know what I mean? So a lot of times it's like I was talking to one friend, he's like, well, I like Kevin Smith. I'm like, oh God, I want to snore. I feel like I'm around, I grew up in California, so I was always around people who love California Love, Hotel California. And I would always say, but are they good songs? And they would be like, we love them. And I'm like, no, shit, they're shitty songs. Not to say that the Eagles don't have great songs, and not to say that Dr. Dre doesn't have another good song, but California Love is not a good song. Fight me.
Are you listening to the messages in the songs, Ronnie?
No,
I think you're missing it. I think they're going like this.
I just want to shake my culo. What the heck?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But yeah, everybody has their stereotypical things, and they are going to this Kevin Smith party, ironically, because they hate him. And needless to say, they don't make it there because they stumble into this Italian restaurant, and Julie is telling jokes, and they meet these women that are just cracking up and think she is like the funniest thing ever. She has found her audience. And the night takes such an unexpected turn.
That is always interesting how you can judge and judge and judge yourself and wonder, why am I not connecting and what's wrong with me, and thinking of ways to better yourself. But sometimes it really, I say this a ton. I think you've heard me talk about this off camera too, when we just chat, like environment plays so much into who you are. In this case, it was a little different because it was more like Julie just is not succeeding in so many ways. So she grabbed onto something, much like all the other episodes. She tends to grab onto something and really just like put her whole heart into it. But I thought this one was fun, and it is the truth. Like whether you are who you are, sometimes a couple changes can really make you succeed elsewhere. You know, I've had that issue with like, you know, certain parts of California. I'm like, oh man, like that's who I am. I grew up in California, but like I've always enjoyed it was about 7 years in all these different places I lived in New York City. And it's like, wow, isn't it funny how you could just gravitate towards something and then it not necessarily be who you are? It's interesting. It's very interesting. I didn't fault Julie.
It definitely is. Yeah, it is. And it's funny because I kind of relate to this episode in such a different way because I grew up, I am a biracial kid. My mom is Mexican, my dad is Polish, but my dad died when I was really young, so I never really knew that side of me. But if you didn't know that, you know, I don't look like I'm Hispanic at all to a lot of people. So that always kind of played a part of like, where do I fit in when I go to school and like my friends are, because my family is all very different. And, you know, I really wanted to I didn't want to be different. And so like trying to kind of, you know, do the big hair and all the big stuff. But that's who I was. Like, it wasn't even necessarily trying to be something I wasn't. That's how I grew up. And that's kind of what I really was. And it was always, you know, it was always like a struggle. So it was my own kind of like coming into, okay, there's two parts of me. This is who I am, and embracing both and making it a point to learn about the other side.
Well, I think that's
just like, yeah.
I think that's what the episode brings. It's like there's different ways to be whatever it is. So if Julie is a Jewish woman living in Brooklyn, like she could run her identity the way that is right for her. Far be it for anyone to tell her how to do that. You know, growing up in California, you know, it's like, you know, there's always these theories of like, are you Mexican enough? Like, or when I came out, it's like, are you, you know, if you're gay, you have to do X, Y, Z, but then like, you're not necessarily on this side or this side, but you just want to not float in the middle, like you don't have a strong perspective. But these preconceived identities is really tricky. Like on one hand, we celebrate them, but on the other hand, like you're gonna tell me you're gonna clock Kellie because she looks like a chola in 1997.
I mean, but that's kind of like the thing. It's, you know, having to like
Sad Girl was in effect.
I mean, just a little bit whiter than everybody else, but I mean, whatever.
He was like Miklo from what it was movie.
Oh my! Do you know how many references to that I got growing up? I mean, Always. I think I need that tattooed on me.
We are referring to Bound by Honor, which was going back watching it now. It's one of these movies that is so old, so it doesn't really play well, but it still plays well because it's very interesting. And it's a young Benjamin Pratt by the
super
way.
hot. I mean, I still think he's a very nice looking man, but super hot in his younger days as well. Love it. One of the main reasons I ever watched that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But,
no, and that's what makes it good about this show is that these are other identities, but it's like you still could like dig within yourself and figure like, oh, I feel complex about this or that, and they make it so fun. They make it so fun.
I mean, the perm and it's her whole appearance kind of played into that accidentally. And I think that was another reason why she kind of fell in with them and they felt comfortable to kind of, be so friendly because and that was kind of her thing is like women don't like her, she's not a girl's girl because there was a women in comedy fest or something that denied her because they rejected her because she wasn't she's like fuck those cunts or like whatever she said, but but that is the thing. And sometimes being a woman in different things, and especially when you are a little different for whatever reason, it doesn't always, you don't always fit in with like the group of girls, you don't always have like the 5 girlfriends around. So seeing this, and because her look was a little bit like their look, they felt more comfortable to kind of engage with her. And it was by accident. She went and got a haircut with her mom from like a trade school.
Yeah, it was an
fabulous perm.
Experimental haircut on Marilyn's side. She was when in crisis, I maintain, because she felt like she was giving Gene Kelly's brunette sister. But Julie looks, it doesn't work for her. But it is so funny that how much identity can be received by others. You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned, this was an error. And I think it's so funny because people will laugh, but on Drag Race, but RuPaul in general will always be like, we're born naked and the rest is drag. And that's like really like a funny comment to a degree or whatever, but it is very true. You can dress down and it lends a reputation, or not a reputation, it lends this person is going to act, see, talk this way. People do think they know you before they know you. And if you switch it up, sometimes even just being calm and wearing a hat, just a baseball hat, just being calm, it's like, oh, okay, this is how Ronnie's going to act, but you don't know necessarily how I really feel. It's very interesting. Maybe I should get a perm.
I mean, it's funny because I thought that perm was fabulous. And I remember, when I was younger, again, with the whole thing, it's like, getting, my hair was super straight, but getting a perm was like, what everybody I went to school with like had. And so I definitely needed to get a perm and all of that stuff. And I wish my perm would have been as curly as hers. Like her perm was fab. I love it.
Sometimes you just
I like how when like as she gets in with these girls, like she adds extensions and pulls the curls out and like really digs into that hair. And that says a lot too. It's like she started to feel comfortable in that, and it just kind of shows she's not really that comfortable in herself, which we already know, but for this character and the reception that she got from these people, she just went with it and embraced it in such a way that she was able to just like strut down the street in those friggin' leggings and skirt and that fur jacket with that big old hair. And it was beautiful to see that. If only she can do that, in like for herself, like what really is her, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the reason she has a hard time doing it with her is because she's always got her mother overlooking her every move. And sometimes, as I said, like that whole idea, like the places I've lived outside of California have been Las Vegas and Arizona, mostly New York, like I said. And it's like when you get to just break away, and for them, it's so funny because it's like, oh my God, the PATH train is going to take literally like 5 minutes, but people do treat, I mean, from where I remember, people do treat Jersey like it's so far away, and that disconnect, or not disconnect, but the unplugging, it allowed her to kind of try something different, and sometimes
forget about
it, Arthur. Sometimes in life you go where the love is. I know that that's a thing too. If she keeps swinging the bat here, her authentic self, and fuck those cunts, but then these other girls are like, oh no, you're fine. You're gonna go where the love is. Can I mention something real quick though?
Yes.
Oh my God, Cola Scola as Matthew, the character Matthew, alerts Lola, alerts Billy, and goes, oh my gosh, is it coming out day already? it has been a whole year. And they're looking at him like, a whole year? You mean you didn't prance out just ready to go, baby?
Like out of the womb. Come on.
And the monologue that Matthew gave was so funny. Like, I slipped on a pair of dungarees. I told Trish, here's my
wife.
It was so funny. And what excites me about that, knowing that we know the whole series already, of course, we've already watched it, is Trish becomes later on Vanessa Williams. So this is exciting to me. Just wanted to make a quick note. Okay, back to what we were talking about.
Love it. I love like all of that stuff.
Back to Jersey and the ironicness.
Yes. No, so you're right. Going where the love is. You know, that is awesome that you said that, because that is very true. You go where you're accepted, right? So, and that, I think, at one point or another, everyone feels a little bit of that, whether it be in a big way or a small way. But I think that's something that everyone can relate to. And, you know, we see Billy do the same. You know, the girls invite him to go to a gay bar and he's like, a gay bar in Jersey, let's go see. And then he realizes that he can be whoever he wants to be because no one knows him. So he plays this part and he finally gets that recognition and gets the eyes on him the way he feels he never has, or that he's been longing for, and he has a blast with it.
Well, it doesn't work initially. He has to lie, though, because remember at the very beginning,
he has to lie about it. So
he and I think he assumed it was just going to be easier. Isn't that bad that we do that? We are in our like beloved New York City or beloved wherever you are, and then you go to a smaller situation and you discredit it, and you're thinking like, oh God, these guys are losers. And then lo and behold, they don't show you no attention. You know, like that's one of those things. Like I remember, again, referring to the TV show on HBO, Looking, there was a time where Patrick went to Fresno. They had to go to Fresno for a family funeral or something like that, but they're at the rickety gay bar, and Patrick, who is always having a hard time at love, he goes, oh God, look at that pathetic guy over there. Da, 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 da. And it turns out that guy has somebody come up to him. Everything was fine. And it's just
so he's the pathetic guy.
Yeah. And his mind was like, because we're from San Francisco, like we're here in Fresno. Like, oh my God. So he was giving sympathy. Lo and behold, he's the one that was getting no attention, you know? And I thought that really reminded me of what Billy went through.
No, yeah.
And then Billy meets Mark Consuelos. Can I tell you how great I thought Mark did in the character? Because there's oftentimes, Kelly, like, oh, is the straight man gonna play a good gay character? But the thing is, Mark himself, along with Kellie Ripa, they produced a reality show called Fire Island, with like, it was like a real world, like 7 gay guys at Fire Island for the summer. So his being in tune with the community is just so good, and I really like to see it. He was asinine though. The character goes, Madonna, we don't like her anymore. We like Demi Lovato. Now let me tell you something, Kelly. Kelly, listen to me. I like Demi like beyond belief, right? But you will not talk bad about Madonna. Like what was that? I was like,
that's like saying that you don't like Liza Minnelli. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, I love the line. It was like, oh, Judy Garland's daughter, is she hot too? Billy did that so good. I was wearing cargo jeans. I was listening to Hotel California. I like Kevin Smith. Oh my God, it was so funny. It was done well. It made me laugh. It makes me laugh every time. I gush over this episode, Kelly. I really, really do.
No, it was so much fun just to kind of watch that whole thing, and to watch Billy have to sit there and be educated on gay culture was hilarious within itself.
Well, and the fact that he didn't know anything, he made every reference wrong. Princess Diana was not, it was Judy Garland, Stonewall. That was the timeline connection. If anything, Princess Di was closer to Gianni Versace. Like, that's not even the right timing. He said the normal brain or something like that. It's the normal heart from Larry Kramer, you know, who was advocating in the 80s. It was just like the way, and I could imagine, like, what if you were in that situation? What if you were in that situation where you're like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get laid. He's gorgeous, but he don't know shit, and I'm over here playing a role. Like, this is when the role could get bad, because you're like, oh God, I gotta just listen to this. When do we get to the shower? It's like when Mark Consuelos' character says, you know, we're much more than just having sex with each other, and Billy's like, we are?
Are we?
He's like, yeah, we have actual culture and feelings, and he's like, do we? Which goes to show Billy wasn't ready to date, you know.
No, but I mean, will Billy ever be ready to date at this point in the series?
How dare you, Kelly? Viridian Row on your shirt. How dare you? I think he's mature. You don't think he's mature?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
No, not yet. But I don't necessarily think that it really is a maturity thing. I think it's just I think he's obsessed with the idea of something that he's not really ready for, because I think he really wants to focus on getting himself together, whether he admits that or not. And you can't really put yourself, how can you really be with someone else when you don't really, like, you're not really in tune with yourself first? You know what I mean? Like, it's always going to be kind of like off.
Not in tune with himself, meaning he doesn't know who he is, or meaning he's like still failing with his acting career.
Yeah, he's just not in a place. Yeah, well, I feel like he just is in a place where he's just uncomfortable. So until he can get to a place where he's at the very least comfortable within himself and his situation, then I think most of his stuff's going to be fleeting, because there really isn't anywhere for anything else to go.
But you might be onto something. We will continue to discuss this as we do all of our episodes, our rickety episodes. What were your thoughts on Arthur sort of coming together with both Julie, because Julie does help, and there's this idea to do this because the budget had been messed up, because Arthur thought that budget was for a one-time thing, but it was for the full year. And Julie comes up with this idea to do the puppy party, the kid party, and it kind of goes awry. What is your thoughts on like Julie coming together and helping Arthur? But then I also want to ask you, moving forward, what is your thoughts on like, Marilyn and Arthur together? I thought it was cute to see, because they do have to have each other's backs.
They do. I was really happy to see her finally help him with anything. Like, even if it didn't necessarily work out, the fact that she came up with something and went against what she normally does to help him do something, I thought was really nice. Considering she missed his birthday the month before.
I know the way. Did I miss your birthday? Yes, last month you missed my birthday. And then she digs into the cake. Why does she dig into the cake? Oh, because what's done is done.
She doesn't think about anybody but herself. So the best thing she ever learned from those Italians was to think about someone other than herself. And that was really nice to see her have to do that, to, just put somebody else before her. So I loved that, actually. And going, having to go talk to a kid she doesn't like, and a neighbor she hates, and, all that stuff, and, be friendly and be nice was fun to watch.
It was great though, because she gets to mention, she goes, oh, and I think you and I have talked about this. Oh, just because I have dogs, do not assume that I also like children too. Came out in this episode. It's funny, the three Italian gals really helped her out. For one, they gave us a great scene. We have all of these interesting references, like, oh, this handbag fell off a truck. The references are just so great. But then we get an actual Goodfellas moment too. It's just one of these episodes that I look at and I'm like, was this only a half hour? Like, you almost have to get the remote and say, I think this was an extended like 45-minute show. But no, same, but they pack so much in. You know what I mean? They
really did. I was actually thinking the same thing when I was rewatching it, that it was just like, wow, they did a lot in this episode. And it was great. And seeing Marilyn and Arthur, like her having to go to him and be like, hey, we got to get her out of this situation before it gets too bad. And she runs off with the Catholics. Like, it was just, but it was fun for them to have to partner up to do something about this and go and, save Julie from that.
I also thought I liked seeing Arthur have a point of view, and obviously his point of view wasn't a superficial one. It wasn't like he was saying, I need to be popular with these guys. It was more to better his work environment, but we never even really get to see that. He's such a selfish guy, a selfless guy. So it was nice for him to make this, I was gonna say, it's nice for him to make this proclamation about what he needs in his life. But then I was like, well, the only reason he probably did that is because Julie literally never asks him, what do you need? So he's not even used to being able to have that free open forum.
And luckily the mishap worked out in his favor, and they thought it was hilarious to have the clown chasing around the boss around the office. So even though it wasn't like the best, it worked out for him to, at the end of the day, the result is what he wanted. So they're calling him by his last name because he's cool now.
They're into him. Arthur really had a come up moment at his job. He talked better with Gabby. Gabby says, oh, well, now I'm going to have to be up to 5.5 weeks or 5.5 sessions of therapy. The half is for a Zoom or a Skype call. They're never the same. And she accidentally talks about her little toy I know, and
I love how she says clown trauma has, disabled my ability to censor myself.
it's like we got to finally see how Arthur feels about things. Usually he's just reacting. This episode was like a champion Arthur episode, even though it wasn't really about him, but I did like to see a lot of that.
I did too.
You know, he deserves for his coworkers to give him a solid. He deserves to have a little bit of success. I was into it. I guess the question to you, unless you have any other stuff, I was gonna say, what do you think is the way it is? Is it a Liza Minnelli song? Because that is what essentially messed them up at the end. The end of the episode messes up because they showcase their non-Jersey side, I guess, right? I mean, because what happened there? It's because they weren't supposed to know those things, or you don't say those things in New Jersey, right? Is that really what it comes down to?
Yeah, I think so. It's like stuff you don't talk about, unspoken stuff, like what's the matter with you? Like, no.
Yeah. And you never say Liza is the real authentic, like this is like her song. No, absolutely not. You don't say that in New Jersey. You could say it across the water. All of it was so good. Again, like I said, you will have people who are like thinking it's so far away and never want to go there, or they're just like shunning it. Like one of my best friends, he's always like, he lives more in the Ridgewood, on the Brooklyn side. And I dare mention once, I was like, yeah, but you live pretty far, on across the bridge and tunnel style, but on this side, wouldn't you ever think maybe you could live in like Weehawken, New Jersey? I've had an apartment in Weehawken, New Jersey, and he's like, oh hell, like I'm like, dude, so you're willing to go the deepest into Brooklyn? He's like, yeah, because it's New York. Thanks.
Hilarious.
So that played on a lot of that people are really like that. But I think in some ways, I don't know how necessarily where you grew up, but like where I grew up, it was like Southern California is Southern California, but don't you dare go to no upland, no inland empire. I mean, the corniness, I would never. I wouldn't even fuck no one out there.
Well, I grew up in Texas, and so Austin is always like, I grew up, went to high school and everything around Austin. So Austin is not typical Texas. It's not necessarily like the cowboys and all that you would get like in Dallas, Fort Worth, or any of these other like small towns around Texas. So that was kind of always our thing, is like, Austin's not really Texas in the stereotypical Texas way. So that was kind of like us go like, no, fuck Dallas. I don't go to Houston. Like, I barely can tolerate San Antonio. Like, I'm like, yeah. And everything's coming up and and it's, I mean, I moved away for almost, 20 years, but it's very different now. But that was kind of like the thing, is like, I only ventured out to West Texas because that's where my family's from. So I would hang out over there. But, I was never really, and my family grew up in Abilene, and everyone from Abilene would always move to Dallas. That was always the thing, because that was their stereotypical thing. So I feel like Texas is very broken up that way. So it's like, they were really like hate on Austin. And everybody went to Dallas. And I was like, no, I never want to live in Dallas. Like, no, like I don't mind visiting there, but I'm not about that life. So it's just different.
This is why I say that Billy and Julie are so relatable. We can all watch them on the show and see Billy Epstein and Julie Kessler are these rotten people. But in our own personal lives, we have our biases. We have our, I would never go live in the Inland Empire. Like if there, no, like a booty call in the Inland Empire. Who do you think I am? Like, it's just, we all have that. It's just, that's what makes the show so great. They push all of these deep things that are within us and how we really act and think about shit, and they just like make these characters live them.
Totally. I mean, when I first moved to LA, the first thing somebody told me was, do not get an 818 number. If you do not have a 310 number, you are not cool. Which is like, 310 was like West Coast, like the beach. Yeah. And 818 was in the valley. And like, apparently from my teachings, the valley wasn't cool. Like, you needed to be on the west side.
You could get a 323, you could get a 310. 818 could be okay, and of course there's beautiful places in Sherman Oaks and Studio City and Encino, but in theory, what you're really saying, Kelly, is, oh, you live in Van Nuys now, don't you? You live in North Hollywood. I
have a 310 number, thank you very much.
It's true, it is important. It is very important.
I lived in North Hollywood. Well, Toluca Lake.
Yes. Oh my gosh. A delicious episode. The funny part at the end too is that you have the tongue in cheek, like, the handbags fell off the back of a truck, the tongue in cheek of it all. But then in reality, at the end, they actually fell off a truck. Oh, I thought that was so good.
I love Marilyn's face when she sees the bag. She's like,
Also,
she can't even believe she's touching it.
Also, Marilyn to be so this lady. What is this? PATH. What does it stand for? They're like, Marilyn, it's the PATH train. Surely you've heard of it. She's like, no, I've never heard of it. And don't call me Shirley. It's so funny because
it was way too far away from her, the upper, where she lives. But it was hilarious.
At this point, the character development of Marilyn, you almost know everything that she's going to think and say. So it was just like, of course, you put her in Jersey. She says, oh, what's it going to take us 2 hours? It's going to take us like in morning time. We'll be back home. Like, it's like, Marilyn, it's the PATH train. You're going to be there's a tunnel right there if you want to go through the tunnel. Like, come on. It was so funny. Wonderful episode. I felt good about it. Italian Piñata, definitely a favorite of mine. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love the haircuts, like everything. I remember getting a horrific short haircut right before I was making my big move to California, and I cried. So I wish I would have handled it with as much grace as Marilyn did, and figure out how to wear the hats and scarves.
Wait a minute.
I had very short hair when we met. Do you remember that?
I remember, but I didn't know you didn't like it. You walked into you overcompensated. Kellie and I met in radio in 2003, as we talk about, and she did. She was shorter than my hat. Like, her hair was short. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna school you. You must have overcompensated with your confidence because you walked in like you owned the room, but I did not know that you actually didn't like the haircut.
Oh, I hated that.
I thought
I literally cried.
You all,
listen,
cried. You all are one audience member, two audience members. You all, she walked in there like, this is how we do it in Texas. And it was her first year in LA. See, I never knew that. I thought you actually liked that shit. I remember
my hair was like this long. My hair was this long, and I wanted it cut to here, and they cut it to here.
I remember. I thought it looked cute. In fairness, it looked really cute. She did look like really
right
gorgeous.
Now, my bangs are longer than what my hair was.
Oh, you're not telling me anything. I thought you were this badass who's like, this is how we do it in Texas. What do you want?
Thank you.
Oh, no, you fooled me.
I was like dying inside.
Had I known, I may have not been your. I may have not been your. I may have not been your friend. I would have been like, look at this girl. She's all insecure. I didn't know you would. I thought you liked it.
That's hilarious. I love it.
How
but no, I like wish I would have just wrapped the scarf up and been like, you know what, I'm going to run. Well, I guess I kind of made it look like I did, but no, I didn't. It was horrible.
Let's talk about bad haircuts. The only one I could reference is back in like when we were 10 years old, 11, 12, every guy got the step haircut. So you shave the side and you had the step. It was very popular of the time. But talking about haircuts, it gives us this beautiful scene, and a scene that apparently is bigger than we could have ever thought, because the scene is as you mentioned earlier, the hairdressers taking care of Julie and Marilyn, their moment to bond. It goes awry. That scene, though, Kellie, turns out is now tattooed on somebody.
I know, and I love everything about that because it's such a significant moment for both of them in two very different ways, but trying to have that mother-daughter day. And just the way each one of them takes it and goes is just a sentiment to how relatable this is and how relatable it is to our guest that has that lovely tattoo.
Apparently it resonated, and this is we'll welcome our first guest here. Okay, Kellie, are you now ready? I know you're ready. You just asked me if I was ready. We're ready. Let's do it. So we're
actually ready.
We're never really ready. We just talk shit and never figure out when's the right time. But I do think it's the right time to add Liz to our show. It's her Instagram is @GotLiz, and she has a Marilyn Kessler inspired bio. That's one. She also has the tattoo that we keep talking about, and she's a huge Difficult Podcasters fanatic. Liz, welcome to the show. Tell us what the heck you're doing right this second, and also why do you like this damn show? Because I try to tell everyone how great it is, but nobody gets it, but you get it.
Thanks so much for having me. What am I doing at this second? Living my dream, truly. I thought I was the only person on earth to like have a true love for the show. So this tattoo kind of came about because of COVID. Like beginning of COVID, had seen this quote that I had kind of forgotten on the Out of Context Difficult People Twitter account. Don't know if you guys are followers.
Oh, we follow.
Okay, but I saw it and I was like, wait, this is perfect. Like I'm like maintaining in crisis. And then I was like, if I get vaccinated, we all make it through. I'm getting this tattoo. So yeah, currently have it hanging out on my leg, and it is my Instagram bio as well. It's like kind of been my mantra for the past like year.
Can you tell us what drew you to the show? Like for some people, they were Billy Eichner fans. They love Billy on the Streets. I've said on this podcast that I was familiar with the show, but I didn't like have to have it. Whereas this show, it was like, give me the crack. I need it all, you know, hit me, baby. So my question is, was it Billy that brought you to the show? Was it the texture of the show, or what was it that brought you to this great Hulu series?
Yeah. So initially, yeah, like Billy on the Street fan, would like watch it with my family. But then I think I caught on to the show, I want to say like a few episodes into season 2, because at the time I was living with 5 other roommates and was sharing a Hulu account. So the algorithm kind of just popped up all these random, like 6 girls in a house. You're going to get some crazy stuff on Hulu. So that show came up and I was like, oh, I know Billy Eichner. Let me give it a watch. And episode 1, I texted my best friend, who we jokingly like refer to ourselves as Julie and Billy. And I texted him when they're like at the performance of Annie and they're like, an understudy isn't as good as you know, like and I texted
the first loser, the first
yeah.
understudy. That's the first loser.
And I text my best friend and I go, we are these people and you have to watch the show. I got everyone to watch it. So yeah, what drew me to it was, I mean, truly both of their characters kind of like mirroring my life experience, like my personality. All of the pop culture references really spoke to me. I'm like a super big theater person, into TV and movies. I kind of love that like inside baseball, like, you know, how they were like calling out like the Kevin Spacey stuff before it was big, you know, stuff like that. Really was into that. And yeah, it just kind of stuck. I think I watched, like I said, I caught up mid season 2. I think I watched like all of season 1 in like 2 days. I just sat and went for it.
Kellie, do you have any questions for her also?
No, I love that. Can you tell me what from season 1 was your first episode? What's your favorite in the first season? Do you have like anything that like stands out, like a part that really?
I feel like I always come back to like library water, which is like always something I reference. Unfortunately, the seasons just bleed together so much in my mind just because like I watch that like, so sporadically, but that is just the one thing that always comes back.
Do you do what we do, which like I say all of these sentences throughout the day? Like if I ever hear Memphis or Maverick, I'm going to say it. Even in crisis, I maintain, or mama, like all of these things that they say. I'm like, why am I talking like this? But you know, the inner Julie gets in you. Within the show, there was a lot of guest stars throughout the 3 seasons. Which was one of your favorites of the guest stars? And if the show was still running now, who would you want to be a guest star on a hypothetical 4th season or like a Hulu movie?
Oh, wow. Okay. So favorite guest star, I think Nathan Lane is someone who comes to mind. I think his character is just so funny. Also, Stockard Channing as Aunt Bonnie. I also, part of the reason why I got this tattoo, aside from like my life completely being like Julie's, like I actually have an Aunt Bonnie. Like that's how close my life is to Julie's, which is wild. But yeah, so she kind of comes to mind. Wow, someone who I would want on the show. That's a really interesting one. I feel like someone that would be fun to kind of poke fun with is like an Avenger, like a Paul Rudd type, or like a Chris Evans type, like someone that like, you know, that like would be game for it and like would be really positive and like could have a lot of fun. I feel like the best guest stars on the show are ones that kind of have fun with it. Like I was rewatching the part with like Seth Meyers yesterday, and that, you know, it's like someone that like comes on and just like has fun with their bit. So yeah,
I feel like I feel like a Jane Fonda would be fun as well. Like just really...
but like Jane Fonda as Grace from like Grace and Frankie, like I would love to see that.
Agreed. So tell us, you've alluded to the tattoo. We've of course been speaking about it all episode. Tell us about what it is, describe it, you know, for our audio listeners, and describe that scene. That scene is funny because, again, as I say, I always make those mentions like, I have a body for sin, Navan, you know, of course the reference is there already. But even in crisis, I maintain is something I would say all the time. And for you to take that and say, we're going through this year, tell me about the year and why it felt like crisis and why you tattooed it on your body. And where is it? Is it on the buttocks? Like, tell us where the tattoo is.
No. So the tattoo,
she said it was on her leg.
It's on my leg. Yeah, so the tattoo is of scene towards, I guess, like almost not really the middle episode, no, because it's the haircuts. So Julie and her mom Marilyn go and get these haircuts done, and Julie pulls away with like this perm, and Marilyn pulls away with this very short haircut that she then has to wrap up with a scarf and puts on sunglasses. And at first she was kind of like, you know, hesitant and not happy with the haircut. And then she goes, oh, like I look great, even in crisis, I maintain. And I think in that context, like it's just kind of like a silly throwaway, I guess. I mean, it speaks to Marilyn's character. But then when I saw the quote out of context, and I was like, this was last like March, April, saw the quote out of context, and I was like, oh man, that's just kind of such a great way to live, like just like maintaining your life. And obviously like beginning of the pandemic, we all, you know, I'm working 9 to 6 remotely and trying to like maintain my life and my relationships. And for me, that was just like the big mantra. And then in May, I found the text yesterday where I texted my friends. I said, I just had this big revelation. I go, I want an outline. At first, I just wanted Marilyn in, you know, the scarf and the sunglasses. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, that's my revelation. I want this tattoo. Like when we pull through it and it's safe, I'm going to go get the tattoo. And then over the months, you know, I found my tattoo artist whose name is Mary. I can drop her Instagram handle at some point as well. She tattoos down in the village, and she does these incredible Black outlines, and she only pretty much tattoos pop culture stuff. And I approached her. I said, I really want this tattoo with these two people. Here's a screenshot. And she kind of helped that vision become a reality.
I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. Her work is amazing. Like it's such a great depiction of it. And it's so fun too, because in that scene, you know, the crisis is that she went to like a hair school. She didn't necessarily go. I mean, these people are learning, and they're going to get better, but it's kind of, you get what you pay for. But you know what? She wraps that scarf around and she looks like Grace Kelly's brunette aunt or something. What is she?
Yeah, she's a brunette sister. Yeah.
That's just what makes it amazing, is because it doesn't matter what situation she finds herself in or puts herself in, she makes the best of it. And that's such a good message to come out of that.
I love that Marilyn, if something bad happens, Marilyn is beautiful in that moment. Whereas Julie, if that same thing happens, it's like shit. You know, they are so different, yet they are, you know, mother, daughter or whatnot. My last question is, you talk about your friend tattooing in the East Village. And when this show aired in 2015, I was living in my tiny, not as tiny as Billy's apartment, but my Harlem studio apartment was very small. And talk about the backdrop of New York City. I feel like this show transcends across, you know, anyone who's a creator, an entrepreneur can understand it. But talk about the special thing about it being a New York City show.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like that joke, right? That like New York City is another character, which is like such a played out, you know, kind of trope. It's so true though. Like there's certain like New York idiosyncrasies, like, you know, the episode when they're like on the train and the guy's like singing at them and just like all those little like touches, like the strike rat or, you know, different things, like all the off-Broadway theater kind of lore. So I feel like that just adds so much. And to me, like I grew up slightly outside of the city, but, you know, always was like coming into the city to, you know, see people, family, friends. So yeah, like deeply meaningful for me to see like my stomping grounds around. Also, like, as I said, I'm super into theater, and a lot of the, you know, guest stars on the show are like theater performers. So for me, like double meaningful for me to see these people on like stage and screen.
The gal who plays Gabby, of course, you know, Arthur's boss. I mean, there's just so many of them. Like everyone, you know, Megan Hilty was on the recent episode we just recapped. Wrapping things up here with you, unless Kelly has anything else. Kelly, you're good?
I would like to know, I have like what seems now like a million tattoos. So how many do you have, and what number tattoo is this one?
So this is my third.
Oh, okay. And what drew you to getting your first one?
What drew me getting my first? So my first tattoo is this, it's a dedication to like Dr. Seuss. There's this really interesting op-ed Dr. Seuss put out about like conditioning children to like laugh at certain things and the influence of adults on children. I don't know, this piece really spoke to me. It was in this like biography of Dr. Seuss I read. So I got this window. So that is my first tattoo. And then my second is a quote from a musical, of course, because I'm a big theater nerd. Yeah, this is number 3.
Amazing. And I love when tattoos all tell a story. I think it says so much about the people who have them and kind of like embracing, and it's such a fitting thing, and that's what, you know, makes this show so relatable, and, you know, makes you relatable to us, and you know, it kind of comes full circle.
I feel like, Liz, we've been talking to you for a long time and it's our first conversation. It's just because you speak the language, you speak the Billy, you speak the Marilyn, you speak the Julie, and we get it. I
also would be remiss if I did not leave this podcast saying that. So after I got the tattoo, Julie commented on it and was like, is this real? Oh my God. And I did end up FaceTiming with her the day I got the tattoo. And I got to show her the tattoo. She was so lovely about it. It was like the nicest 15-20 minute conversation I've ever had. And we talked about all of our similarities, like the two of us, because that's like a big reason why I got the tattoo. I see a lot of myself in the character. So like hearing from the woman who wrote the show, wrote this character, acted as this character, it was incredibly special. So
and she
that is amazing. I love that.
She does not miss a beat with the decor of her apartment, with Double Threat podcast that she has now. It's just like, she does not miss a beat. And all of those things stay within you. You know, every time I'm sitting down, I'm like, oh, is it the arch in my back? Like, it's just, she's so delicious. That's funny. We reached out to her and she said, scram, nerd. No, I'm just kidding.
She follows our Twitter.
She loves us. She loves us. But I think it's a show for everybody. And that is awesome that you got that tattoo. I don't have a tattoo, so I'll have to consult with both of you when I get a Marilyn Kessler inspired tattoo one of these days. But that's it, Liz. I think this was great. Thanks for talking with us, and keep watching the show and loving the show.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.